do the clap.
Nice. And studio buddies doing a podcast with a little gay guitar. Hello and welcome to the Studio Buddies podcast with me, Simon.
And I'm Jamie.
And today we're going to be discussing time wasting or wasting time.
Yeah.
So that can come in many different forms. It's kind of, procrastination. Everyone kind of knows how you do things to avoid other things. And first of all, we should probably talk about the different types of time wasting, because it can come in different forms. For example, I will watch whole seasons, every season of a show. And I'll even watch the show, because I'm watching a show at the moment that is kind of the precursor to a show that's already finished. So I'm watching Better Call Saul, and that's the precursor to Breaking Bad. And I'm up to the last season, but they're still releasing episodes. And before the last season started, I watched all of Breaking Bad. And I've got other things to do, but I watched the whole season of every season of Breaking Bad. Just to kind of go, right, I'll watch Better Call Saul, let's watch Breaking Bad and see how everything unfolds and how it all connects. It's not for anything specific. It was literally just indulgence. And I do enjoy stuff like that. I tell myself, I can use this. This has got aesthetics in it. There's artistic things that I can learn. I'm doing video production. It's literally just binge watching a show for the love of wasting time, really.
Yeah.
So.
One of the big things for me is the fact that I will watch live streams that have been recorded and put on YouTube. So I'm not watching the live streams as they happen, but I end up just watching live streams. And you're talking 3-4 hours of someone playing a game. For instance, yesterday I was like, I'll get some sketchbook stuff done. And I watched Gab Smolders play Unpacking, which is an unpacking simulator where you just unpack boxes, and it was a 3.5 hour live stream. I did half a page, because I was just so invested in where she put the objects and how she organised things. It was ridiculous.
Man. I mean, it can be that's the thing, is that some things can be completely inane like that, where there is no benefit you can get out of it. But if it feels nice to do, you try to tell yourself there's got to be some positive, there's got to be something. But I mean, some things can be just, connecting with friends, which sounds like it's a positive, but I'm only doing it because I'm I'd rather connect with friends than fill out this form, which I hate filling out forms. And I've done a lot of that recently. So, and especially online, because there's loads of little drop downs and specifics where I've got to change tabs and cross-check things. So instead I'll just be like, oh, you're right, mate, how's it going? That's looking really good. And I'll just connect with people, because I love connecting with people, but I know I'm doing it to avoid doing what I should be doing. It's such a bad habit to do that. But there's certain friends where I'm I'm busy at the moment with uni, I'll contact you about this later. And then I won't be doing whatever work I'm supposed to be doing for either uni or for my channel or whatever it's supposed to be that I'm supposed to be getting done. I don't do either one. So I'm not getting back to the friend, and I'm not creating the content that I'm supposed to be creating. It's just completely time that's vanished. But that's really bad. But so that's contacting friends.
See, I noticed that we do it as well. We'll talk on the phone for 4 hours, and every single time I'm I could do some things while we're talking, and it just never happens. We both just sit there and talk for so long. It's great. I really enjoy it. But afterwards, you're just I was supposed to do this at the same time, and it just never happened.
Well, we did that when we first started talking on video calls. We were supposed to be doing art together, and that was the first idea, wasn't it? And we never did. We just had video calls where we'd talk. We'd just be chatting, because I just love chatting to you for ages, and then be oh, well, we'll do it next time. I'm sure we'll get some drawing or painting done next time.
God, no.
It didn't happen. No. It's so weird. It's so easy to waste that time. I suppose it's defining what wasting time is. because you are doing something. I mean, if you're watching something, it's doing less, but it's still, I do feel like you get some kind of information. You must be retaining something, like, why is it I like watching this person doing the unpacking game? Or why is it I'm watching all of this show again? Is there anything which I'm pulling out of it? I mean, I must admit, Breaking Bad was different the second time I watched it, especially after watching Better Call Saul. My memory of Breaking Bad was a lot more, it just seemed like a much more modern show than it did when I rewatched it. And I thought, oh, there's some things which are quite fuzzy and quite kind of, they're well done, but at the same time, they're still, I don't know. They're very specific things that I noticed, nothing to do with anything productive, so it's just kind of non-productive time, I suppose, to an extent. It's weird. What other kind of wasting time do you think there is that you do?
Well, I gave this example before we started. Yesterday, I was supposed to do more sketchbook work, and it started off with me and my partner cleaning the flat, like organising things so that it wasn't as cluttered and everything looked nice. And then it went to like cleaning the carpets, and then I spent, I think it was about 3 hours taking all of the clothes out of the wardrobe and the drawers and refolding them so that they all fit. If I hadn't have had to do something, like if I hadn't had the intent of, I'm going to do sketchbook pages, there is no way out of my free will would I have gone into the bedroom and folded all of the clothes. It would not have happened. But I noticed that I do a lot of cleaning as a way of procrastinating. Yeah,
I think I've emulsioned things before because I didn't want to do something else, either typing. It's usually the writing segment of certain things that I've got due, and instead of that I'll just be like, I'll just emulsion that canvas, it's been waiting there for ages, and I'll justify it in my head, be like, whilst I'm doing it I could emulsion that other thing, and I'll emulsion several things whilst I've got the brush wet, and then that's my job for the day. And I'm like, well, it's got to dry, and I can't do anything whilst it's drying because it's all in my way, because I'm doing it all in my room. I don't want to knock it over. And things like that. I suppose there are certain parts where sketchbook stuff, I have done sketchbook stuff instead of other things, but emulsioning does feel like it's a job which I'm doing. Like I think, I'm priming the canvas, whereas in truth I'm just avoiding doing the other job that I'm supposed to be doing. But I mean, there's bits of things which I'll do where, cleaning is a big one. Because like you said with the folding, cleaning's a big one for me, where I'll just think, I do need to hoover my room. It's been a while, and whilst I'm hoovering, I may as well wipe everything down first so that everything's wiped, and then I can hoover because it will all be on the floor. Yeah. And that turns into an hour or so, and then after that I'm like, no, I'm going to reward myself with some YouTube. That is a big time wasting for me, is YouTube, just watching video after video, especially comedy, because I love watching little comedy clips, and I'll watch comedy clips for over an hour and not laugh, and I'll still go, clever, but I won't laugh, because it's not that type of comedy where I'm like, brilliant. There's only a few comedians that I get that from, whereas I'll just watch one after the other as if it's an obsession. I don't really, it's just bad, it's not a good productive thing to do. It's strange.
Another version of time wasting that I do is I play games. If I was left to my own devices, I would play games all day, which probably isn't a good thing. But and I have this weird relationship with games where I'll be into like one game and one game only for months, and then I'll find a new game and I won't finish the previous one, which is really irritating. But I will just play games. It's gotten to the point where now it's almost like a daily occurrence. So even if it's just like a few hours, I will play games. I could be doing other stuff, but I'm not.
It's so tempting. I can just imagine it. It's been a long time because I don't play games. I'm not a gamer, but I can really imagine that if you get used to a platform and a world, I suppose, and I forgot what they call it, but it's kind of a landscape of the game as far as the parameters of it go, and you know how it works. it's so easy to imagine that you just go, I'm going to go into the Wild West or whatever the theme is, just be like, I want to spend time there, as opposed to being stuck here. I would say we've just experienced a bit of time wasting. We've just had a bit of wasted time that we would have spent otherwise, being on a roll. And it was because we struggled to keep a video link going because of the parameters of that platform. We're now having to change it.
Zoom has now decided that on the free option, because before you could talk for an unlimited amount of time on Zoom if it was just you and one other person. Now they've decided to put that 40-minute cap on one-on-one calls as well, which is the bane of my existence, because in a previous episode where we interviewed Andy, the amount of times that we had to start new meetings, it was absolutely ridiculous. Like, we had to set timers. Well, we set timers anyway, but we had to set smaller timers just to make sure that no one got cut off like halfway through a sentence so that we could like quickly wrap it up and then start again. But yeah, they've now done it with Zoom as well, so I'm not too happy about that because Zoom is expensive. Did you say
it was from Monday as well this week?
Yeah, it was from the 2nd of May.
So there we go. There's a timestamp for all of our tens of viewers. This is the point where there was a before and now there's an after. And we don't really know the parameters of FaceTime as far as group calls. I don't know if when we do our next interview, which we've got one more guest lined up as a fairly solid booking. And I don't know whether that 3-way FaceTime is going to have limits to it or whether it's how it works. I don't really know how that goes.
Well, it was saying that it was up to 32 participants, I think. But we have to make sure that these people have iPads or some kind of Apple device. Otherwise, this goes out
it's already
the window.
Logistically tricky. And that can feel like wasted time. So just to try and keep it on theme at the moment, because it's a lot of working out and a lot of things where we want to really approach someone who's going to be on the podcast with everything worked out. So we say, we're going to do it this way, it's going to go for this long, and then we'll just run it this way. And that way they don't have to figure anything out with us. They can just say, oh, that's cool. Like the requirements are this, this, and this. So long as you've got that, we're on for the podcast. And now it's obviously trying to negotiate how it's going to work. But that it feels like a bit of wasted time that we just had to try and lose a bit of rhythm. And it's, thankfully Jamie and I are resourceful and we quickly try and jump onto another platform and set it up quick and get back on it. But I mean, recently we did have something happen where you were going to invest a lot of time into making artwork and we had to spend a lot of time doing something else, which was invested time, but it's wasted the time that you were going to spend making artwork. And that's just time away from where you had intended to allot it. And obviously we're not going to discuss what that was, but at the same time it is...
Maybe at some point.
I think almost definitely at some point. I cannot wait to discuss.
We will spill the tea, but not yet.
I'd love it if you went, whoa, with your cup now and just spilt it on yourself.
Oh, God, no. I have so many electronics, I can't do that right now. But yeah, I mean, that happens to me quite regularly where I'll be like, okay, I'm going to allocate this amount of time to do this thing. And I never take into consideration the fact that I have ADHD, ever. So I'm like, this is the plan. Plan, meet window. Because you're going out there. Like, it just never happens. I could be anywhere and I'll get distracted by something else. It could even be like seeing what other people are doing. That was one of my main issues in the first year of uni, in college, in high school. I just flutter around, be like, oh, what are you up to? What are you working on? Oh, that's really interesting, isn't it? And they'd be like, oh, what are you doing? And it's like, well, I'm over here talking to you.
Yeah, and you can be oblivious.
I
did exactly the same thing where I would want to spend time with someone and I would lose the time that I would have had either, in a studio or whatever it was supposed to be. And instead I was driving to go and spend time with someone that I was dying to see. But at the same time, it's wasting the time that I would have had invested in something else that I should have really done. So it is. something which you sometimes can't pull yourself away from, because it's just your impulses drive your kind of motivations, and it's hard to concentrate when you're distracted with that priority being imbalanced, really, I suppose. It's not good.
It's like I know that my optimal working conditions is like if I'm listening to music, but then sometimes if there's an absolute banger, I'm like, this is a banger, and I'll start singing, and then in my playlist I'll start adding more bangers to the queue so that I can just start singing. And it's like, well, I'm not doing anything now because I'm just listening to music and singing instead of actually doing the work. But I'm so like, I'm like, no, I want to sing now. Not that I can, but I mean, even stuff like that, I get distracted by music, even though I need it.
Yeah,
to
even
anything.
curating the playlist, because you will start to search out, what is that song that I wanted to put on? What would go nice back to back with this? Or what is it I was thinking of is just time taken by something else, by a distraction. And I'm not a believer in being able to focus every minute on something really productive, but sometimes you know that you're purposely avoiding what you're supposed to be doing, and I do it far too often. But there we go, that's just a natural thing, I suppose, that we kind of run up against.
I had that realisation when I was folding clothes yesterday, where I was just like, I'm doing this to avoid work. Yeah, I am. And then I came back into the front room where my partner was, and he was like, well, what are you doing in there? I was like, oh, I'm still putting clothes away. And he was like, it's been like 2.5 hours. How are you still doing that? I even fixed the drawer as well. I took all of the jeans out, fixed the drawer, little screwdriver in hand. The drawer's fixed and they all fit now, so it's fine.
Oh, man. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the time, I think mine is entertainment. I do think it's cartoons, it's films. Because I don't know why with films I really back on to try and watch 1 or 2 films a day. And I don't know why, I just feel like it might be something which I try to use in the future as either my influence from films or... I mean, one thing the internet doesn't need is another movie analysis channel. But I'm so tempted to kind of go, these are movies I don't see being analysed. It's like there's a TV show that I don't see anyone talk about, and I'd love to do it. And I'm not going to mention what it is because I'm just going to try and work on that secretly, and then... maybe drop it and see what it works out like. But yeah, a lot of the time it'll be cartoons, and I'll watch it like what was that? Is it Disenchantment? Disenchantment.
I've watched that 3 or 4 times.
I enjoy the world because it's within that Simpsons Futurama world where it's all rounded. It's got a nice sense of humour. It's really nice and well designed. I can watch that a lot. The show that I try to make you watch a lot is Harmon Quest.
I still haven't watched it yet. I'm sorry.
Well, I've got 3 seasons of it now, and I think I've sent you something like 3 episodes or something to watch. So you might love it.
I need to.
I've got a feeling you'll love it because it's D&D adjacent.
I've got no excuse. I have a spare HDMI. I could literally plug it into my laptop. I need to watch it.
That's a big thing for me. Is that show because it's a good cross between comedians and comedic kind of actors and cartoons, and I love that. And then the geeky side of it where it's fantasy role-playing games and kind of minor celebrities, not to insult anyone on there because there are big names, but people who my mum wouldn't know who I'm talking about if I say, oh, it's starring Elizabeth Olsen or Aubrey Plaza. She wouldn't really know who those people are, but I think it's amazing to have them on. Or Tom Kenny, who voices SpongeBob. It's a big deal for me.
That's good. That's actually got to be another one for me. Whenever my partner's dad is down, it's D&D. Like, he's come down while I'm in uni, and I've gone home just to play D&D for like 4 days straight.
That's great.
Yeah. Like, it doesn't matter what deadlines I have. I'm just like, no, I am gonna be an elf today for the next 4 days. That's another big one. He doesn't come down that often, which is probably a good thing. Otherwise, you'd never see me again.
Too much time spent in the fantasy role-playing world. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
It's fun, but at least it's engaging in something social. Mine is purely rewatching, and I can't tell you how many times I've rewatched each episode because it's just charming each time, and I notice something else about very subtle things, so it's not even worth mentioning, but I will try to make those justified just because I've rewatching it all the time. Now, do we not now, I've just realised we don't now have to have a timer, do we, for this podcast? We can record the rest of the podcast without breaks. Oh no, we have to have breaks because of sending the clips. Just because we are now at a point where we change our topic, but we're not at the point of needing it to be a certain time. Sorry, guys.
I have one other thing that I used to do. Crochet.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Instead of doing college work, I would crochet from like 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. to the point where my fingers are like cramped and mangled.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. I would just crochet.
Oh, wow. That's really cool. How long has it been since you've crocheted?
I haven't crocheted since I've been here. I crocheted more when I was in the hostel, so it's about 3 years. I could still do it, definitely. But yeah, that was another big one for me. I just wanted to make like
Is that what it'd be? I was about to ask you what you'd make when you crochet.
Yeah.
Teddies.
Shall I go grab one real quick?
Whilst whilst JB is off grabbing one, I'll tell you that little technical side is because we film in certain chunks so that we could send the clips online, and then I piece them together in the editing suite. Not that it's interesting, but that's what I meant a moment ago when I was saying we've not reached the time limit that we usually try to reach before we restart our conversation. So yeah, let's see it. I am ready.
Are you ready? I don't know which one to show first. I'll show this one first because this is the more simple one, I think. Bearing in mind it's covered in cat hair.
Oh, look at that. That's amazing.
It's a little mandrake.
That's brilliant. I don't know where mandrake's from. What's mandrake from?
To be honest, I'm not sure, but there's this person on Etsy called Stitch Tower, and she sells patterns, and so I just follow her patterns. And then the next one, you can stay here actually, friend. There you go.
Yeah.
Are you ready? Wait.
Okay. Oh, that's brilliant. Look at that. That's great. Oh, wow. Yeah, going from the pink to purple. It's got a real gradiated tone going on as well. That's really nice. Oh, well done.
So,
excellent.
Thank you. They took a long time, but I love them. And I want to start doing it again, but the place that I bought the wool from doesn't sell the wool anymore. And I don't remember what the wool is called, and I don't remember, like, how, I don't know, I don't even remember what the label looks like. So that was another thing. Crochet.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's end that segment there, because that's a good cap on it.
Yeah.
Okay. Recording.
Oh, you can see her little ears, like, on the camera. This is my cat. You've seen her before. Okay, so what is the next topic?
It's a similar one, but it's going to go on to more useful time wasting. And we did talk about getting certain things done, and it's not necessarily what I was thinking as far as useful time wasting. I think can take on several different forms. So depends which one you want to talk about first. There is getting little jobs done, which you need to get done anyway, but they're not really the priority that you are avoiding.
Yeah.
And therefore you're getting little jobs done. So mine will be sketchbook work, which you did mention earlier. I'll do a lot of sketchbook bits and pieces to avoid doing a written piece, or I'll do a painting to avoid doing I was going to say writing again, but sometimes a drawing. Even though I love drawing, certain drawings I can just feel are going to be more challenging and mean more to me. So I'll go, you know what, I'll get this painting started before this paint dries because I've got some drying on a palette. And it's rare because I don't paint as much, but that can be something where I think that'll be something I can do to avoid doing that. Well, I don't consciously think that, but subconsciously that's what's going on, is I'm only painting to not draw or to not write or to avoid doing something else. But it will be something good, because getting a painting done or getting sketchbook work done is useful, and you're adding to productive kind of creative output.
Yeah.
Still, it's not the thing that you're supposed to be doing, so it's kind of wasting time doing something good. That makes sense.
Yeah, I've noticed in the studio that instead of actually painting, I'll spend a day mixing all of the colours first.
Oh, nice.
Because I'm like, oh, well, I've mixed all of the colours. That's all I'm going to do today. I don't have to do it that way. I could literally, like, mix one colour, make a start, and do it as I go along, but I won't.
Yeah.
I will bulk mix colour. I've also noticed that I'll paint the outside edges of the canvas when I can't be bothered to do anything else, because I have this thing with canvases where I don't like if you have this really nice painting and then the edges of your canvas are still white, it just bothers me.
Yeah,
it really
you shouldn't
bothers
do
me.
that. No, you're right to paint the edges. It looks kind of, I'd say amateur, but it just looks like it takes the illusion away, I think.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to build an environment, and you may as well paint with a little frame of white around it, like paint a little blob in the centre instead of painting all the way to the edge. If you're going to leave the outside edges, why not just leave a mounted edge around it, which is not measured or something? Because it's going to detract. It's going to detract from the strength of the paint.
I paint my edges black. I just like the way it looks, like a nice clean black edge.
Yeah.
But I've noticed that some people just don't, and it really bothers me. So I'll do my paintings and then I'll spend a day painting the edge of like all of my canvases, because I don't want to start anything else.
I'm just thinking your paintings are quite tonally dark anyway, aren't they? I don't think you've got anything where you paint it light. I mean, would you paint it black around the edge if it were, say you had a peach colour that covered a certain area? Do you think you'd still paint the border black, or would you just cover the peach over the edge?
Well, I mean, if the canvas is like that, so like that part's painted, that's the side.
Yeah.
I'll go up to that edge just with black.
Would you do black anyway, even if it's lighter?
Yeah, I just prefer the way it looks, because if I did it white, then it kind of just looks like I haven't painted the edges.
But what if it's an in-between? What if it's a mid-tone? What if it's not black and it'd be a dramatic difference between black and the mid-tone colour? Say you've got a mid-purple or a mid to light purple, and then you've got an abrasive black up against it, and you've got this ability to go over the edge with the purple so that it just folds around it. And then you've got the black around the lower part where the shadow collects or something.
Yeah.
Have you ever tried that, or would you just go, no, I do black edges?
Honestly, the thing in my head is I do black edges because I haven't tried doing anything else, so I don't know how it would work, and I think I'm just really lazy when it comes to that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's still the job that you're getting done, so that is, useful time wasting that you're doing to avoid doing the actual painting itself. I mean, I'll do things like sharpen pencils.
I've asked people's opinions about whether or not they paint the edges of canvases, and it's like a 50-50 split between people. Like,
really?
Some people do and some people just don't, and I don't, I'm not hating, but I am, because I don't get it. It doesn't look clean to me. You're allowed to do whatever you want. It's your painting. If you don't want to paint it, don't. But I don't understand why you wouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of the school to say that I'm not hating, but they are wrong. They're wrong to not do it. Because it's like using white on watercolour. I get that it's a mixing colour and they include it, but I now know that watercolour paint sets don't need white. They're just not necessary, because you're painting on white paper, and the way that you use watercolour is using water and not white. And that's how you get lighter shades, is using water and not using white. So it does seem like it's maybe an approach which I just don't appreciate. Maybe it's for use on toned paper that you use white in watercolour. I can't see a justification for not painting the edge of a canvas, because that to me seems like a lack of awareness that that's detracting from the strength of the colour and tone that you're adding to the face.
Unless people are like worried that they can't, like they're worried that if they paint the edge it's going to come to the front of the canvas. But then that's why you've just got to be careful with it and don't like flick it around.
Yeah, I mean that's
most of the time with just a straight edged brush, like if you just go like that with it, it kind of just stops there anyway. Like it doesn't tend to go over.
Yeah, just have a piece of tissue handy if you want to wipe it off. I mean, it's usually, if it's acrylic or if it's oil, you can usually take it off pretty quick. I don't know.
Masking tape it.
Yeah, exactly. There's loads of ways, but I do think that type of that for a reason is not a good reason. I don't think there's any finished painting on a canvas that I'd do where I wouldn't paint over the edge.
Like imagine, right? Well, you know what I mean. But a master, you know, like I don't know, Van Gogh, Monet. You see them raw canvas and the edges aren't painted. You'd just be like, what?
What are you doing? Yeah.
Even the masters, I'd be like, come on, guys.
Yeah.
Come on. Just do it. Oh, it annoys me.
Oh man, I think doodles are something which I do to waste time, where it's kind of doodles they're kind of useful because you can discover things in doodles. I sharpen pencils, you know, where it's kind of like because a lot of them have, you know, gone way down in the nib, so I'm trying to extend the amount of nib that's exposed. But that's not essential. That is just something where I'm like, oh, I'll just get my knife out and just have this nice process of flicking all these bits of chippings into the bin.
Yeah.
And it's wasting time, but it's then I've got a nice set of prepared pencils. But I am just avoiding doing something that's more important, really. And I don't know. Sorry, I have adjusted from the edge of the canvas thing. I just thought we're extending the debate on canvas edges. That needs to be another episode.
Oh yeah, a whole
canvas
episode.
Edge.
Yeah. One of the things that I think is quite important to mention as well, like we mentioned previously, that talking to people, that could be a good thing. Like if you're having the right kind of conversations where you're bouncing ideas off each other, or you're kind of like, you know, oh, what do you think about this? And you are going over to see what other people are doing. It can inspire you and give you new ideas. It's just where that line is between getting useful information and just being there.
Yeah, just passive, you know.
Yeah.
Let's just chat.
Yeah.
Well, that relates to the second segment of this topic, which is another type of useful time wasting is creating distance between you and the subject, where you've invested a certain amount of time, you've been that far away from the canvas for a long period of time, and every time you go back to it, you may look at it for a moment from a distance and go back, but having that distance and folding a load of washing or sharpening a load of pencils.
I had some good advice on how to create that distance. If you work on more than one piece at a time.
That's great, yeah, because your mind is completely shifted onto something else.
Yeah, like it doesn't even have to be the same size, but just spend a few days on one, a few days on the other, and then when you come back to the first one, you'll notice things that are different and things that you want to change, because like you said, you're not this far away. Yeah. Sometimes you do just need that space. I think trying to work out problems in a painting can be a real... I was going to say a conversation, and all I mean by that is that you do something and then you look at it and it kind of almost speaks back to you as in, that's okay, but it's made that like this now, and it's sort of one thing just changes the whole thing. And then you can work on that for so long that you lose focus on what is actually you're trying to achieve, because you've just been in this conversation for so long. So yeah, that distance is really, that is good time wasting, where you separate yourself and then you can revisit and do it. Sometimes I think you can work better when you've had that time away, just because I sometimes work better when I'm up against a deadline. I don't know why, I just become more motivated and focused. And I think that's why I put things off until the last minute a lot. That's an ADHD thing.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I'm on the brink of a diagnosis every time we talk.
I think another way that you could do it is to literally bring someone else into your space and be like, tell me what's wrong with this. Tell me what you think I can do to make it better. Because when you're just stood there staring at it, you're kind of just like, oh yeah. Tumbleweed.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like, there's nothing else going on. But if you can bring someone else into it and be like, what do you think is doing the wrong thing? They can kind of look at it without a bias and be like, well, it could be this, it could be this. Or even just asking for ways to improve it.
Yeah.
And that could help put a little bit of distance between, like, yourself and the piece. To try not to get too defensive about it, because I know that that's an issue that I have, where they'll be like, I think this is wrong, and I'm like, well, I think you're wrong. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's not good. That's not why they're there. Just kind of take it on the chin and be like, all right, you don't have to agree with everything. Just don't be horrible about it.
No, I can relate. It's really hard to take that, even though it's so valuable to have someone give you their critique, especially if they are noticing things that they don't like.
Yeah.
But it's so hard to accept, and I've had that more with family members than other people. I think people outside of my family, if they say things, I won't necessarily agree, but I'll always appreciate the feedback.
Yeah. Like, you can time waste if you need to kind of reset, because you don't want to end up burning yourself out. I remember when I did my GCSEs, I was revising from like early hours, it was like 9 a.m. That's early for me. Early hours of the morning, 9 a.m. Until like 9 p.m. And it got to the point where I couldn't make a cup of tea anymore because my brain just like fried. And I remember going downstairs and I was like, oh, just going to make myself a brew. And my mum was stood there watching me. And she was like, what are you doing? I was like, what? She was like, you can't even make a simple cup of tea. Like, you need to stop. This is bad. Like, you don't even know how to make a cup of tea anymore. Yeah. This is an issue. Because I just completely burnt myself out to the point where simple tasks, I couldn't do it.
Yeah. I mean, burnout is a real thing, isn't it? It's kind of overloading it. So, no, it's a good point. I'm glad that you brought that up, because when we say wasted time, it does sound very judgmental, and it sounds like something that you'd hear from parents or peers and things like that, where you feel guilty about doing these things, but it can be the most healthy thing just to give yourself a break to return to it. But I mean, I do remember hearing someone years ago, and I won't say whose name it is just in case it wasn't them, and it's a divisive name, but this person I remember saying about wasted lives, and I think they were talking about people who are obsessed with computer games, because they say that, you know, when you are completely obsessed with computer games, there's no relationships, there's no career being built, there's no this, that and the other. And I took that on as a truth. And then I was like, how true is that? I don't really know how true it is. Plus, I think that neurologically, neuroscientists have proven that people with computer game habits have developed part of their brain, which is called... it's kind of, I think it was called something like a zombie mode of the brain, which is basically back brain, where you're doing really complicated things without half as much effort anymore. Because when you first do the game, you're spending so much effort and energy figuring out what all the moves are and what the actual boundaries of the game are. And then after you're used to it, you can do so many things that are really technical without even really, you know, spending any effort at all.
It kind of, the only way I can kind of describe it is like learning to drive a car. Like, you get, well, not from my experience, but so I've heard, I can't drive, that once you've spent so long behind the wheel, you kind of don't really have to think about it anymore. Like, you're not second guessing and trying to figure out like what to do and which gear you should be in. You just know. And it's the same with games. Like, the longer I play a game, the more I've noticed that I don't have to think as much, which can be really good for, you know, like turning off your brain. But then it's also really good for hand-eye coordination as well, because you're having to use your hands a lot, especially if you're playing Elden Ring. So, it's a lot of button mashing and stuff like that. And I think I could be wrong. But like you said about the zombie brain thing, I'm pretty sure it is proven by someone, don't know who. People in the comments, find it, tell me, because I'm not going to remember to research it. So, but they've proven that people that play games have better hand-eye coordination than,
Really?
someone that doesn't. Yeah, and it could be the same for, like people say like, oh, you're wasting your life away playing games. You can make a career out of that now.
Yeah.
You can earn money doing that, but then people that read books, they're not seen as wasting time because they're reading.
Yeah.
Like, it's still, like, if flip it on its head, if you spend all your time reading books, you're wasting your time. You're just reading.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
But you're not, because you're developing your language, you're developing your brain.
Yeah.
And
that's also true, but it is kind of, you're not necessarily a book reviewer, so you are spending time reading, but it's so socially acceptable that it's seen as such a sophisticated thing to do. And I love reading books, I do really enjoy them. I love getting immersed in the story. But the truth is that that's not something where I can now review the books. I just have a vague memory of certain stories. It feels like watching a film. That's what a lot of the best books feel like in my memory. But yeah, it's true that is a weird cultural bias that's happened.
Yeah. Like, why don't we say the same to bookworms?
Yeah, you wasted your time. It just feels so wrong to say it. Whereas with games...
the people that are like, oh, well, it promotes violence. So do films.
Yeah. I don't think there's any correlation even. I don't think they've shown that there's statistics to back up people who... I keep being tempted to say read a lot of books are violent, more violent, but it's obviously we're talking about computer games. Oh, this book! Just throw it down. Ah. But
to be fair, I have been that angry at a book before. Yeah.
Actually, there's Catcher in the Rye. I don't know if you're aware of this, but the person who assassinated John Lennon claims to have read Catcher in the Rye something like 10 times or 13 times or something, and then assassinated John Lennon because the book spoke to him in a way where it told him to do it. There's nothing in Catcher in the Rye that says that. There's no connection, but that was...
I'll be honest, I didn't even know that John Lennon was assassinated. This is news to me. Yeah.
Yeah, he was shot something like 3 times in the back or something. In New York City.
Somehow I thought that he was still,
I wish.
Alive.
I wish he were. No.
Wow.
Yeah, and unfortunately George had an attempt on his life as well. George Harrison had someone break into his house and stab him or something. Anyway, it got very gory. We're not a murder podcast, so I won't get into that. But yeah.
Welcome. No, yeah.
But yeah, that's just a connection between Catcher in the Rye, which is a famous book, and a murderer. So
yeah.
Correlation, causation, maybe. So yeah. No, I don't buy into that for films, for computer games. I've had the debate recently with a really good friend of mine about violence in films, and I have said to this person, I don't care what kind of violence it is. If they can justify it philosophically, I'm not really into, what do you call it, where it's just kind of, where it's over the top, where it's just kind of, I forgot what the word is now. My brain is failing as far as vocabulary goes, but it's indulgent, where it's overindulgent, I suppose.
Yeah.
And it's just doing it for the sake of being gory. Sometimes I even like that. It depends. It's almost like a fine line, and once you've crossed that line, it's justifiable again because it's gone so over the top that it's almost trying to break a record for how pointlessly violent it's being.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with it again. But I just don't like any actual cruelty on camera. I don't like animals being sacrificed. I don't like anyone being hit or kicked or anything where I think that is someone too young or vulnerable or an animal to consent to that. I can't stand that. That's unacceptable to me, really.
And I don't know, this is a small tangent for me, but I feel like I need to mention it. Any film that a dog dies in, regardless of how they pass, whether that's natural or not, why have you got to do that to me? I can't watch Marley and Me. I watched it one time and just sobbed violently the entire time. I couldn't do it. And I understand people are like, oh, but I want to watch it to feel sad. Why would you want that?
Like, what about the Futurama episode? That killed me, that Futurama episode.
I haven't seen it.
It's brutal. It's so sad. And it's a cartoon dog. It's not a real dog. You're just watching it going, this is so unfair. Can't there be a timeline where he goes back for the dog? It's just so unfair.
Just like, I don't know, some really sad deaths in like series and films. Like in Lucifer, spoiler, Lucifer, when Dan dies, that broke my heart, seeing Trixie at the hospital, because I just like lost my mum as well, and I was like, I know how it feels. While my partner's just like, are you okay? And I'm like, I understand her pain. Just like, no thank you. Man. Nah.
Yeah.
No, I hate it.
See, now we're wasting time in the podcast. This isn't even time wasted. But no, I don't think I've seen that many dog. That's why I had to go to Futurama, because I was thinking, what have I seen?
Our title, right? I don't mind the viewers listening to this. Could be time wasting, featuring time wasting.
Yeah, that would be good. I've thought of a film where a dog dies and I don't mind. That's not a good thing. But I mean, it's weird that I was trying to think. I was like, have I seen? And I just thought, yeah, there's one where a dog gets shot early on in the film, and I'm sort of okay with it. Not that I wanted the dog to die, but it's just sort of so fast paced that it's just seen as an obstacle. It's not seen as an entity. It's weird. So yeah, sorry about that. That's really bad.
Wow.
It's, for anyone who wants to know, it's No Country for Old Men. Anyone who's seen that film will know that. Well, you might not remember actually, but it's got a great thing of being chased on foot, in a car, in the water, and then when he scrambles out of the water, this dog has just bounded through the water and it's just coming for him, and he just quickly shoots the dog, and it's kind of, he's just being pursued and he's just got to escape. And that's one where I'm kind of like, yeah, just get out of there, because all that's going to happen is bad things to this main character, and unfortunately the dog is owned by the bad things, so yeah.
The dog from I Am Legend.
I've not seen that.
Oh, anyone that's seen it, in the comments, you'll all know. It's with Will Smith. Terrible. I watched it as a small child. Don't recommend that. It was quite traumatizing. Anyway, back on topic.
Yeah, dog dies segment.
Yeah.
So yeah, wait a bit. Are we on to the next segment? Let me think. Where do we leave off? I think that
useful time wasting is what we were on, I think.
Yeah, and then we have, I think, the next segment after that, unless you've got any more useful time wasting, I think all of mine have been maybe exhausted. I did forget to say from the types of time wasting at the beginning, one of mine will be, and I spend a lot of time doing this these days, eating, not just grapes, but eating. I do a lot more time eating these days, where it's not for nourishment, it's just snacking. It's just constantly eating, because I used to have another... Is that a boredom
thing?
It's to replace another habit that I had.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe boredom, but it's maybe just... what do you call it when it's just kind of like an infatuation with filling time? Maybe it is like a fiddly agitation thing or something. I've got to have to eat this now.
It kind of seems more like a stimulation thing. Like a way of stimming, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like I'm currently stimming, but you just can't see it. Yeah.
Are you going to reveal? What are you doing here?
I have my jacket.
I thought you were going to pull up and go crochet.
And I am folding the button, just rolling it and then unrolling it over and over again. Because I like it and I can. And it's not loud. I don't know if I can think of any more useful time wasting, because I feel like my life is just time wasting in general, and it's hard to determine which one is useful and which one isn't. Yeah,
absolutely. It can be hard to determine. I mean, these are all a little bit vague. They're only trying to make segments just so that we can try to cover time wasting in a more thorough way, as opposed to just the random chats that we have, even though I like our tangents and I like the random chats. it's so much easier to run off into like edges of canvases or dead dogs as far as a tangent than it is to talk about like, right, back to time wasting. Okay.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like structure might have to somewhat follow through the window with the other stuff that I put there that I don't remember what it was.
We're trying.
Yeah, because it's just, it's hard, guys.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I mean, with this especially, I thought this would be a lot more natural to kind of go, yeah, time wasted here, but I think that it's pretty tricky to try and, I mean, it's a good topic. I mean, the next one is non-productive time wasting, which is what I've written down. After useful time wasting, really non-productive time wasting, for me probably is eating, because it's not productive and it's not nourishment. It's just snacking and it's just indulging in sweet things. And now I've got a belly for the first time in my life, which I quite like having, because I've always been skinny. But there are times when I'm like, I am going to have to do something about this before I get too old to do something about this. And, that is on the list of using that time in my own health and well-being.
I feel like we're going to end up repeating a lot of the stuff that we've already said, though. That's the thing. Because my very unproductive time wasting is probably like doom scrolling TikTok.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I do a lot of that. Not
but
TikTok,
to be fair, I do, like, it's funny.
What, like, doom scrolling on TikTok? Yeah.
Yeah, there's some things where I am just like weeing. Because it's so funny. Or there's, like artists that I found on Instagram, not on Instagram, on TikTok, like Nicole Parrish. So I suppose that could be productive, but most of the time it is like comedy skits of like Karens.
Yeah.
Mine is doom scrolling.
Yeah, sometimes it is just indulging yourself into a bit of entertainment, which it's not really productive. But I suppose, like we keep saying as a caveat, it's not like you're supposed to invest every minute into being productive. We're not worker bees that should be grinding ourselves into a fine powder on the floor so that we can be swept up, just being like every minute should be invested in the economy or something. It's just that we're trying to say about investing in yourself and certain things that you don't get done because you've sacrificed it for other things. I've done things where I've set up, I have an A1 presentation pad, and I've removed one of because it all sits portrait. Yeah. And I've done one, you don't do landscape, do you? You do portrait, as far as you don't do landscape ways for...
I do landscape.
You do landscape and not portrait, sorry.
Not portrait.
That's true. All of them are portrait, and I've moved one landscape and I've blue tacked it up landscape to think, right, I'm going to do a big sprawling drawing with brush pens and with fine liners and do it as a video. It's been like that for over a month and I've not done it. And I don't know what has replaced that time, but every time I look at it, I think, I'll do something else. And I've rewatched episodes of shows that is definitely non-productive stuff. But the doom scrolling on Instagram that I do will be just not only the doom scrolling, but then looking at the comments and then judging the comments and going, let's have a look at this account. Okay, it's not private. Let's have a look at who they're following, because that was a hell of a comment and I need to know who this person is. And I tried to kind of go, that makes sense. I'm going to look for more evidence. And it's a weird, it's just a non-productive time because I'm investigating things that aren't beneficial. It's only helping a negative aspect of my personality, which is judgmental. And then I don't know, it's turned into all weird. The algorithm picks up on what I've been looking at. It's like more of this, and I'm like, I need to stop looking at pictures of that because it's not an interest. It's just a slight curiosity one. So what's everyone going mad about? Yeah. And then I look at it and it's like, so you like, I'm not going to say the name, but it's like, so you like this celebrity, do you? And I'm like, no, I don't dislike him, but go away, algorithm. It's just not good. So that's my non-productive addictions sometimes can go that way. The doom scrolling is real, I think, for more than just us. Big phenomena.
Definitely.
Let's break that.
Everyone in the comments, let us know what you doom scroll.
I think we can continue this though. We should continue the non-productive thing a little bit longer. We pause here.
Clap. We should just do like a little small video of every time I'm like...
I'll set it to a rhythm. I'll be like, studio buddies.
Yes!
Doing a podcast.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got no rhythm, otherwise I would clap along when you do it, but I can't. One thing I have noticed that I feel like might be quite interesting for you specifically, for me to say, I've noticed that I will put off doing sketchbook work by doing written work.
That is interesting. Yeah.
I would prefer to do essays than sketchbook stuff.
Well, it's completely flipped that way. That's interesting. Yeah, I can't do that. It's weird. But I wonder whether it's because of certain things that you know about why I might be pushing back against the essays. Because I feel like I could really invest in that in the right circumstance. But yeah, at the moment, my experience has been, instead of writing, especially forms, it's filling out forms that I'm really sick of. I've just had to do that too often. That. Yeah.
Yeah, and surveys.
Yeah, surveys and things. I mean, at the moment, go on.
I've been selected by, it's a university. I did have a letter. I put it in the bin yesterday because they send me emails. But it's some kind of university in the UK that randomly selects a certain number of people, like, across the entirety of the UK. And I'm one of those. So I have to do their surveys. And, like, the drop-down menus, they're so annoying. And the fact that I do it on my phone, it doesn't fit my screen properly.
Oh, are they really expansive drop-downs? Yeah.
It'll be, like, whole tables, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I will put that off for as long as possible. And they're always like, oh, yeah, you know, we'll send you a £10 Amazon gift voucher like every time you do one. So there's an incentive there. But then I do one and I get the voucher and I never use it because I just forget. So I'm just doing it for free.
Oh no, you've got to make use of those.
I know, but I don't, and it's bad.
But they don't expire. You've got them though, haven't you?
I have no idea. I'd have to find them.
You could be an Amazon millionaire and you just don't know it.
They're only like £10 gift vouchers, but yeah.
I mean, if they all accumulate, you're there with Bezos, just the same wealth, but you've got it in his Bezos money, in his Amazon
imagine
books.
that.
Yeah.
Be like, take me on, Bezos. This
the
is all
space
from
race
you,
now.
sir.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would much prefer to sit in front of a laptop and do essays than sketchbook stuff. Yeah. And if I'm in like the right headspace, I could do an essay in about a day.
Wow, that's pretty good. I mean, that's pretty productive. And because I'm trying to think about more non-productive ones as far as
sketchbook stuff though.
Yeah.
On the other hand, no. I'll get like a page done a day. That's it.
But I mean, is your sketchbook stuff, is it drawing or is it getting printed off stuff from writing in the sketchbook? Because you do different sketchbooks than me.
Yeah, it's printing stuff off and writing about it.
Yeah.
Because I'm not good at the whole like mapping things out in my sketchbook. I just do it, so I don't map anything out beforehand. So I just...
Now, you see, the truth is, some artists I know would say that is non-productive time wasting, because to go straight into a piece might waste time where you would have saved that time working it out in a sketchbook. And it is something which people do. I mean, I've done it with animation and designing characters where I've skipped the phase of designing a character, doing a turnaround, doing different outfits. I've skipped all that and just gone straight into the storyboard so that I can go from the storyboard to the screen, trying to skip steps. Whereas in truth, if you do all of the steps that people in the profession do, you've kind of got insurance there. Are you shaking your head? What?
No. That's not how my brain works. Anyone that tries to convince me otherwise can suck an egg, because...
You know I like sucking eggs, thank you, so I will gladly suck an egg.
But my brain doesn't work that way. If I try and plan it out before I actually do it, I won't end up actually painting, Because I'm like, oh, well, I've drawn it once. What's the point?
Yeah.
Like, don't want to have to do it again. So I won't do it. My brain just can't.
It is hard. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've only done it a couple of times. I did it for a drawing, which I have got up there. I should do an insert. Or in fact, I'm just going to change the camera. That drawing there, I did a small version of. I'll try to find an insert for it, but and that was something where I think I did it just to get the tone, because it was a portrait of someone who I kind of know. I don't know her well, so I wanted it to be good because, you know, I'm kind of friends with her and it was a favour to use the photo, so I wanted to plan it out. And it shows it's the importance that I invested in it. Otherwise, I think I'd rather go confident, because I see it as just a confidence thing when, you know, the way that you do it is just being like, I can just go straight on the canvas with this and it'll be fine.
It's either go big or go home, like balls to the wall or no balls at all, you know? Like, I can't. If I try and draw it out beforehand, my brain is just like, well, we've already done it. There's no point now. Like, you've drawn it. You're just going to have to draw it again, and that's tedious.
Yeah.
So it's either, like, do it all in one go and just start painting it, or just don't.
I mean, what about what Andy told us in that episode where she said that she has a sketch, but it's always different when it goes on the wall than what it is in the sketch?
See, I'm rigid with that, though. Like, if I do a sketch,
yeah,
I will have to paint the sketch. Otherwise, my brain's like, but this is wrong. Like, you haven't done it. This is wrong. So it's like an all or nothing thing for me, which is very much, again, an ADHD thing. All or nothing. I either paint it or I don't.
I think I have. I mean, I can really relate to it. I think I'm fighting against it to try and do that thumbnail sketch. I mean, not very often. Most, 9 times out of 10, more than 9 times out of 10, I will paint and not do the sketch, or draw and not do the sketch beforehand. But I'm trying to learn to do that just because I want to close the gap between what professionals who I admire do and what I'm doing. Even though I don't think that's the difference, I think there's going to be a relation there between working out and finishing, where you get used to doing sketches looser and doing a piece tighter.
Here's one for you, though. How do abstract artists do it?
That's a curious question. Yeah, I don't know if that they do. I don't know.
Exactly. Like, I mean, our tutor, for instance, his landscapes are very abstract.
But he did show us his sketchbook, actually, doesn't he?
Yeah, but he can't replicate those flicks, how he's done it in the sketchbook. He might figure out the placement of a house.
Composition.
And that's it.
Yeah, I think it's composition, maybe. Maybe like the buildings go here, and then, because the sketch didn't work out, moving the building. Because he does photo color. He does a lot of sketchbook work where I think if I could do that, I'd enjoy it. But, well, if I could, I'd enjoy it. I don't know if I would enjoy it. I can't do that because I can't enjoy it. I can't enjoy the idea of photo collage is just peeling skin off my bones. I can't stand the idea of it. I mean, you've done well with that, because looking at your sketchbook where you've got photos put in there, not photos but prints where you've printed things off and put it in. I want to do that collaged with drawing on top and things like that, but I can't bring myself to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know what the barrier is.
I commemorate any artist that literally, like, meticulously sketches out everything that they do before they paint it, because, like, hats off to you. That's impressive. I just don't think it's something that I'm ever going to be able to achieve, because it seems so tedious and unnecessary to me.
You like time wasting. But
yeah,
I think
exactly.
I saw a comment on Instagram the other day.
Full circle.
It was a professional who I really admire, talking about bark drawing, and bark drawing is specifically doing rigid angles, so no curvature at all, and this is for portraits, and you just do square angles so that you've got the side of the face where there's shadow, and then you've got the blocks of light, and you've got all of these geometric shapes making it up. And there is someone in the comments saying that they really struggle to do that, and they always get distracted by the detail and the texture, and that's what we all do. We all look at but what about the the eyelashes, and what about the nostrils, and none of that really goes into a bark drawing because you're just trying to get the angles of the big features. The response to that, someone put, I used to have that problem, but now I don't go beyond bark drawing because I don't see there being a point. I don't see there being a point in doing details or doing texture, because once you've got the bark method down, you know that you've broken down the essential shape of everything. Now, I don't know if I agree with it, but I love the comment, because I just thought, imagine that person's world being broken into geometric shapes that are accurate. Not just geometric shapes, but shaded shapes. So you've got like a sense of 3D to them. I really like the sound of that. I'd like to have a bit of a body of work of just sketchbook work there. Because I don't think you do bark drawings large. You do them small to work something out, and then you transcribe that onto a larger surface if that's what your intention is. But I like the fact that this person said that's not even my intention. I never go beyond the bark stage. It's like the opposite of what we're talking about, where we just go straight to the finished piece, and they say, why finish a piece? What's the point in finishing a piece anymore? And I kind of admire that. I don't know what it is about it, but I sort of thought it's nice to flip the script on what we think is important.
Yeah.
It's prioritising, what you think is actually the benefit. But yeah, as far as non-productive, is there anything else that I can think of that's not productive? I used to have a habit all the time, which I no longer have, that was not productive. I used to love it, and that was smoking. And when I quit smoking, and I'll justify it all day long, and I still am not an anti-smoker, but I definitely would justify that with, it's time for me to think. It makes me more reflective, it makes me more introverted, it chills me out, it's not unhealthy for my lungs because of what I'm smoking, things like that. Whatever I'd sort of talk about to justify it, and I no longer think like that, because even though I have a decreased lung capacity these days, I still know that it's a lot of time that I'm not spending doing that, and I don't spend as much time eating as I did smoking. So that was non-productive, time wasted, and that was since I was 12 or 11 years old that I started. So it is long overdue now that I'm newly 40. I'm not so newly 40.
One for me, which is quite a common one again for people with ADHD and autism, I think, is skin picking.
Oh yeah.
I will pick my skin for like an hour.
Yeah.
Just trying to get at it. I'm not embarrassed about it. My fingers are an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
Is it going to focus? Focus, please. Wait, is it going to focus? Yay, there you go. So I just focus back on me now, please. Thank you. That would be very nice, actually. Hello.
Back in the room.
I'm here. Is it going to... There we go, we're back. So that is a big one for me. Like I'll be sat there with tweezers and stuff like that, just picking at my fingers. I don't remember what the name is. Something like body focused stimulation or something like that. Along those lines. But yeah, I hate having like I don't want to it's really hard to describe. I hate having like loose skin on my fingers, but I'm the one that causes the loose skin. So I end up in this vicious cycle of, oh, that's loose skin, I'll rip it off and I'll pick it, and then I end up with more loose skin, and then it gets to the point where I'm just bleeding.
You need a manicure set. That's what I need to get you, so you can go. Just stop.
I have a manicure set.
Yeah.
I just never use it.
It's not as much fun as skin picking.
No. Like I'm doing it again now, because I'm talking about it. And another one is like spot popping as well.
Oh, really? Yeah. It is a nice sensation to do. It's a satisfying sensation, but not productive.
Yeah. No. I know that I shouldn't, because it's obviously causing damage to my skin. But especially the finger picking, it's something that I do subconsciously, so I'm not even aware that I'm doing it most of the time. I've noticed that I do it more when I'm overstimulated, as a way of kind of regulating my own emotions, which is really unproductive. But like the fidget toys and stuff, they don't help
No.
as much because I forget that I have them. And I don't carry them with me all the time.
Yeah.
So it's just
Easy access.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's always there with you. Oh,
Yeah.
man. I mean, whilst we're on confessions, because this isn't quite such a same thing, but mine is taking naps, and it's a confession because it shows that I am 40. I take naps in the afternoon, and it's like 2 hours at a time, and I do it every day pretty much, and I'll do it with the intention of staying up later at night because I'm more productive at night. But I don't want to now sacrifice early mornings. So I have a nap in the evening. I wake up and then get work done until about 2 a.m. and then I'll still wake up relatively early, between 8 and 9, and get up and do things so that I've got that same time of day. It's weird. It's a strange
I go through periods of napping, so like I'll go like 6 months without taking a nap, and then for the next 6 months it'll be like a nap on a daily basis. And it's really bizarre. I do love a nap, but the only issue, like my partner's mum, for instance, she will nap for 20 minutes.
Really, yeah.
She will wake up after 20 minutes.
I'm so jealous. How can you do that?
How... I've never understood how people can do it, where they're like, oh, I'm just going to shut my eyes for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Because unless I intend on falling asleep, I don't want to just sit there with my eyes closed, because that, to me, is really bizarre.
Yeah.
I don't know. I couldn't imagine anything more boring. Like, I read in the newspaper, but... But, like, that to me, just staring at your eyelids for 20 minutes. Why? Like, you might as well go through, like, one whole sleep cycle.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, if she can wake up, though, and feel refreshed, I'm really jealous, because that is something I can't do without 2 hours.
I can't even go to sleep and feel refreshed, let alone having a nap. Like, I wake up and I still feel as exhausted as when I went to bed.
Really?
Yeah. I think I either sleep, like, way too much or just, like, way not enough. So it's either, like, committing to a full 10 hours, which is way too much, or it's, like, under 5 hours. There isn't an in-between. But I function better on 5 hours, I've noticed.
I think that's a youthful thing. I used to do that a lot more when I was your age. And now I've got a weird thing where I'll just shut up and be awake at a certain time. I describe myself as a lot older than I actually... I mean, 40 is not as old as I'm making out, but you do feel, I definitely feel different. I think it's the weight as well. Putting on the weight has changed my outlook as far as my mobility and agility and things like that. I think if I lose it and I have a shave and I cut my hair, I'll be back to being a teenager again, because I don't feel especially old in my mind, and I'm quite happy to, I don't know, to snap out of some of this, like, oh, I'm old, I need a nap. But it's just a weird, comfort thing, which I do. So, strange. But,
Okay, cut it.
Clapping.
Did the clap.
So, yeah. That is, I'm sure there's a lot more non-productive time that I have, but I'm thinking more now of time that I've wasted in my life where I know that I've just... I used to say to someone, I'd rather watch paint dry, as the expression, I'd rather watch paint dry. And then when I saw that they were offended, I think it's because I got asked to hang out with this group of young lads and I was just being mean to them. And I said, no. And I told them that my brother does graffiti, so I'm literally watching paint dry. I was just trying to excuse myself as I was being a bit mean to them. But paint drying, watching paint dry is something where you're kind of wasting time, but I don't think I've spent a lot of my time doing that. I have spent a lot of my time... It's like, because I do drive, and I drive quite a lot when I do. It's a weird statement, but I mean, like, I like a lot of time on the road. I will drive a long distance quite happily. I don't mind sitting in traffic, and I know that's wasted time, but these days I try to think of it as observations and appreciation of the world, because even though I don't paint, I see myself as a painter, which is a really strange thing as well. I think I see myself as a potential painter. So when I'm stuck in traffic, I'll look at the tarmac and go, it's kind of purple, really. It's a bluey purple. And then that hint on it is sort of almost an orange, which is complementary with purple. And I'll kind of go through, the colour wheel and look at how things are quite complementary just looking out the window of the car.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of time that you spend not doing anything. I mean, I used to work at a place driving around dentures and things to different dentists, and I'd have a watercolour set in the car with me, and when I was stuck in traffic I'd just pull it out and start painting because I was so used to being stuck in traffic. Now that's not legal and it's not advisable, and you will get in trouble for doing it. I also used to have my little gay guitar in there just to pull it out and practice tunes in the...
Yeah.
You're not allowed to do that, I used to love seeing people in their rearview mirror just looking like, what is he doing? What's going on? I'm like, do, enjoying myself, just going like, it's MySpace.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's looking back on it, a lot of jobs I think are wasted time. A lot of menial work that I've done throughout
my job.
Yeah, I think it's wasting your time.
Every single time I come home from work, I'm just like, I could have done something else.
Yeah.
In that 8 hours. Because it's just the same thing every single shift. The same people that you have to deal with. The same situations over and over and over again. And I could literally be at home.
Yeah. Wasting time at home. But I mean, it could be...
I would prefer it, yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing that I enjoy about work is the fact that I'm exercising.
Yeah. I mean, talking about wasted time, because this is supposed to be wrapping it up now, as far as everything that we talked about is different aspects of where your time isn't being used in as productive a way as it could be. And what I'm thinking now is where you look back on it, the last 3 years of my life, I'm not going to talk for both of us, is time that I think is really wasted a lot because it wasn't invested in the areas that I thought it was going to be. And I know I go on about this quite a bit in several episodes, so I'm not going to go into detail. But I will say that I wanted to learn really good drawing. I wanted to learn ideas about painting, and I've learned a hell of a lot more about that from neighbours not so far away from me than I have going to try and learn academic approaches to doing this, and it's just not delivered, and it feels like completely wasted 3 years. And that can be a real... I mean, I try and get a positive out of it and go, I've learned certain things, I've met some people who are worth the world to me, so it's not completely wasted. But it does feel as though you've not had what you intended to have from that experience.
I have to agree with you on that one.
It's not nice, is it? It's really bad to think you've got the potential to invest this time and this money in this aspect of your creative personality, and it just wasn't utilised. If anything, it was slowly crushed and taken away. And that's why I feel like it's a waste, is that creatively it was a waste.
Yeah.
And it's a really hard thing to reconcile, to say there will be benefits there. And I don't know, there's certain things where I've not made things purposely because I'm not doing it on behalf of that entity, I'll say.
Yeah.
I'm making sure that that's invested after I've, doing everything invested in my own output. And I am really going to storm every different channel that I can, every platform that I can get onto to try and make this work, because I don't want to end up in retail, because it's a waste of your life. And I don't want to end up in any other menial job where I'm thinking this is not a creative outlet for who I am. And
don't get me wrong, there are some people that genuinely thrive in retail. There's one colleague that I have, she absolutely loves her job, and I love her so much. She's like my work mum, but I just don't get it. She's so happy to be there all the time, and I think it just takes that kind of person to stay there.
Yeah.
Because she genuinely makes working there a good experience because she's so inherently positive.
Mm.
But on in the same breath, I'm like, I don't understand how you feel this way about it.
No.
but she's just a ray of sunshine. I mean, like, there's some people that really enjoy, like waitressing, bartending.
Yeah.
But it is just not for us.
No.
Like,
if it doesn't work for you, you know it, and you can feel it hurting you because you're forcing yourself to conform, and you can't do it. You can't force yourself to conform when you're not that person, and it doesn't work for the workplace. It can be, kind of a negative thing for your colleagues, because when they're friends with you and you care about each other, they try to help you out, or they may be influenced by your inability to do certain jobs because you just think, no, this is not, I'm not investing in this job. I don't feel like I should be the lackey for these people, and I can't stand it. I become so negative in those environments. Not good for you. So if we could ideally find an outlet that is creative and free for us to inject into it our own selves, our truth, and our kind of, sharing every aspect of what we think is valuable in either art making or discussion or, maybe interviews or whatever we're going to end up doing, that's just going to be so much healthier for people like you and I than to try and force ourselves into shops or anything else.
On that same note as well, like, I know that, we don't have that many viewers right now because we have only just started. It was officially 2 months. Was it yesterday?
I think it was yesterday. Yeah.
Yesterday, yeah. If there are topics that people do want us to talk about, obviously sensible topics, okay? None of that dirty business here. Let us know, like, in the comments, things that you want us to talk about. This could be in, like, I don't know, a year's time where we actually have a sizable audience, or bigger than what we have now.
I'd love that. I'd still go and read the comments, but be nice. Try and be nice, please. I know it's fun, but take it easy.
But just let us know things that you want us specifically to talk about, or if there's anything that you want advice on, because we don't want to get to the point where we run out of topics.
No. Plus anything that, you want to hear being discussed at length, because we are trying our best to really explore different subjects. And I have to admit, this was more difficult than I thought it would be to talk about wasting time. And I feel like I've been trying to stretch and waste time by talking about time wasting, just in order to try and make it, I don't know, not of value, because that'd be ideal, but it would make it similar to how we normally discuss topics that are easier, more art-based topics. I think I find it easier. Or obviously killing dogs or the edges of paintings. God. We just ran away with that digression because we find those easier, I suppose. But to try and structure this was more difficult than I thought. I'm glad that I wrote down a couple of notes just to try and keep us on a track. But it's not going to seem like it. I can imagine the viewers like, a track? You think you've been on a track at a course? Because this is maybe a little bit higgledy-piggledy, but it's difficult to cover certain areas. But I am going to try and come up with interesting ideas for us to engage with. We're not running out of ideas, don't get me wrong. I wrote down 10 ideas in, a night the other day and just sent them to you. And I'm sure that we're going to have a lot more. But this was an idea that I had yesterday, I think it was, or today. And I just wrote it down.
It was today.
Was it today? Yeah. It's been a long day. And so I thought, this could be a good one. And it was more of a struggle than I thought. But I'm hoping we haven't wasted your time, people at home, to keep it cheesy. That's my little cheesy, like, yours and ours. I'm hoping we're trying to make some benefit of saying that some time wasted is good. Just make sure that it's not disproportionate, I suppose. When it's kind of all the time that you're just avoiding things, sometimes you've got to face things. Jamie's really good at facing things, and I'm better at kind of avoiding it in a way, to try and save myself from the drama.
I don't know if I'm better at facing things.
I've seen you face things. To certain things I've seen you face where I'm just like, that's really inspirational, because you've just gone head on at something where I'm like, I'd have kind of like gone, I disapprove, goodbye, and just walk away, whereas you're just like, nope, I'm planting my feet here, we're discussing this. So that's great. Anyway, the point being is that we are going to keep up the pace with this, and going to have different guests lined up, which I'm looking forward to as well. We've got a lot of people that we've contacted and happy to come on and looking forward to it. There's other people who I've not heard back from yet, and I'm trying my best, so I'll keep pushing that. There is someone who I'm going to reach out to soon because I haven't seen them online for a while, and they've recently reappeared online. So I'm going to reach out to them, which would be nice, and see if we can get them on. But yeah, for the time being, unless you've got anything else.
I don't think so.
No? Then this has been another episode of Studio Buddies doing a podcast with their little gay guitar. And thanks for watching.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.